we had about 11 people come to our house that were armed, and we were told that the project is going to continue regardless of any efforts that we make. I was also investigated heavily by the DSI, roughly 2 weeks of face-to-face interrogation.
And I'll just add in there, they're the equivalent of the FBI.
So this was a big deal because of the level of contact that the developer had with government officials. A deputy minister filed a complaint claiming that I was an organized crime figure in Phuket.
What's the story, everybody? Hope you're doing well. Pete here from Thairish Times. In 2004, American Eric Hendley bought a property in Phuket, Thailand for the commanding view he had out across the Andaman Sea. Before he purchased his property, he did all the checks with the Hawaii municipality that the land between him and the sea was Zone 1 land, meaning nothing that could ever obstruct his view could be built there. Well, that all changed in 2010 when construction began on a luxury compound named Eva Beach, which flouted zoning laws, environmental protections, and basic planning logic. Some of these units sold for $1.2 million. And there began a series of lawsuits from then up until today. Really interesting court rulings in this one, folks. Very, very interesting. Eric is also going to talk about the intense pressure put on him by a number of organizations. We're talking serious pressure that most people would buckle under. I'm included in that. And then we're going to get into, can a property that's already been sold, valued at today's rate is an estimation by me, probably around $1.6 million. Can it be corrected? What does a correction look like? And who does the correcting? These are really interesting issues we're going to talk about today. And I will say this, folks, all the issues that are explored in this video are already out there in the public domain. And the reason why this video is being made is to provide lessons and knowledge for people moving forward who are considering purchasing a property. All right, so before we meet Eric, I'm just going to show you on Google Maps what we're actually going to be talking about. So I'm going to zoom in on Phuket. There we go, all the way in. You can see Rawai is the area we're going to be talking about. If I keep zooming in, zoom back out a little bit here. So right here is Eric's house. This is Eric's property. I'll show you the street view in just a second. And then this area here, Eva Beach, and it's this land here. I'll zoom out a little bit more. So Eric had a commanding view right there, right across the Andaman Sea until construction began in this area here. Okay, let's take a look at street view. So the sea is to my left. And then further down here on the right is Eric's home. So let's go down to Soy. You can see the building there, Eva Beach on the left, coming up along here. You can see it there, Eva Beach. There it is, Eva Beach in on the left. And right here is Eric's home. And I'll just go down a little bit more so you can see. Go down a bit more. You can see, again, I'll just go from the other side there. We can have a better look. So there's Eric's home here. And you can see he has a balcony up there. So look at that. Look at the commanding view he would have had from the balcony. It was the home was designed for the view. And that's what he's looking at. I'll go one more down, see if we can turn around from this angle. We get a better angle there. There's his home, beautiful home. And then into the left, or into the right, sorry, we have Eva Beach. And you can see there, let's go back. I shouldn't see that before. You can see there's the sea. So you can imagine the view he would have had before this was built. So Eric, thanks for coming on. I know this is going to be well, we've had a chat yesterday or on Friday, and the it was the phone call blew me away really, and this is a story that I've done a lot of research on it. I know that it's going to be, I don't want to say enjoyable because it's not enjoyable for you, but it was
Mm.
enjoyable for me to research it and learn about your story and to share it with people. Can we go back to the very start? Just tell us a bit about your background and
Oh,
how you ended up in Thailand.
okay. Okay. Oof, that's a good question. I was in the high tech industry in the United States. I had my own company. We worked with Fortune 100 companies and governments regarding imaging uh, problems and solutions. Imaging like security. I worked with Walt Disney. I worked with Canon. I worked with Microsoft and Xerox, and we worked on making images look good and security of images, like identifying perpetrators in a digital uh, 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 CCTV result or something like that. I was sometimes an expert witnesses for the courts to help identify FBI witnesses and matching shirts and things like that. So, pretty techy stuff. My wife was Taiwanese, and she got tired of me being in an airplane all the time. And one day when I came home, uh, I guess around mid 40s, she basically said, it's a nice life we have, but we need to live a life. You can't be in an airplane all the time. And since my asset was actually my academics and my intelligence or my consulting, I couldn't make money by uh, relaxing or in your sleep. That's actually when you're in business is when you make money in your sleep. I actually had to get in an airplane and go to the client's sites. And so it was time to make a change. And my wife and I went to China, Indonesia, Taiwan, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, and many many Asian countries. And we settled on Thailand. It was kind of a cute story because it was between Shanghai and Thailand, and we were in the underground in China, and the bell rang that it was shutting the doors, and the door shut so fast and so hard it would break a rib. We did the same thing in Thailand, and the bell rang, and you put your hand in where the door was closing, and it just gently touched and opened again. And we realized that Thailand was kind of a little bit more easygoing place to go. So we settled in Thailand. I wrote my second book at a hotel in Patong, and at lunch, somebody came up and said, "We've got a house that's pretty interesting," and we went and looked at it. And that afternoon, we bought the house. Went back to the United States, packed up, um, properly packed up. It took us about a year to get here. Properly packed up and folded things up, and then moved to Phuket.
Wow, and the house that you bought, this is the house that we're going to talk about now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's exactly right. This house was a contractor's house originally, and he was in financial straits. So it was well built. The property was well laid out. Everything was correct. And so we bought the house, and we fitted it out, finished it up, put the doors and windows, etc.
What year did you buy the house?
Bought the house in 2003, moved in 2004.
And can you describe the area around the house? What's it like?
Oh, it's on a small soy. Soy is a road in English, and it's a dead end. Yeah. And it's maybe 2.5 meters wide. So you really can't have two-way traffic. And the road I'm on goes from west to east. My house faces north, which according to the Chinese is lucky because you don't have western exposure or eastern exposure. So the sun doesn't come in and cook your house. And then the house itself overlooks the ocean, including a long beach that's about 5, 6 miles long, and islands, et cetera, et cetera. So it was a very quiet place, a very secluded, peaceful place.
And is it like a local place? There's lots of local Thais living on the soy.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's not a development. Yeah, it was a one-off, but it's also a lot of larger houses were here. It seemed to be an enclave of houses that were more uh, uh, upper scale. There's some very large houses here that come from wealthy Thais, wealthy Malaysians, wealthy Chinese.
Okay. And the area in front of your house,
Mm.
it was along at the time it was along a beach. Can you just describe that area at the time?
Sure, sure. Yeah, yeah. When we were looking at the house, we our property is roughly 12 to 15 meters above the sea level itself, and there's a strip of land in front of the street that we're at, and it's about 60 meters wide. And my wife and I were looking at it, saying, "This is absolutely brilliant." But we need to check what the laws are in that piece of property right in front of us. So we went to the municipality and we asked the details on it, and they said it was in what's considered zone one, which means that they can only build 6 meters high and have a garden space of about 75% according to law. Yeah. And so since we overlooked it, since we were about 12 meters high and we looked it entirely, it made no difference to us because if somebody built 6 meters high, we still had a view of the ocean and the beach and the islands. So it's a thin stretch, and it used to be a mangrove. It was a great little mangrove, lots of fish, and the local Thais would go down there in the evening when it started getting cool, and they would go clamming and they would go looking for fish, and have a couple beers down there and have a nice time, and then go off home.
So zone one, it means it's still private land, but it's just the restrictions are it can't go up more than 6 meters.
That's right. Yeah, it can be chenoted, which is Thai for a title deed. So it's allowed to have a title deed. And but if somebody were to buy it, and if they were going to adhere to the zoning, then they could only build 6 meters high, and they would, and based on the area of property, they could only build on 25% of the property. 75% of it would have to be garden space.
Okay. And what kind of a view did you have then? Because I looked on Google Maps and the structure of your house, at the top of the structure, there's kind of like, is it it's a big kind of, it looks like a balcony, but it looks like there's space there that you could literally stand and look out onto the sea.
Oh, it was commanding. It was a commanding view. Yeah, we could see for miles. We could see up to the peninsula. The beach on the left-hand side was long. It was all the way up to the peninsula. We had 180 degree views. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
And then, okay, so then the big question is what happened?
Hmm. Okay. We moved in into Soy Salaga about 1 month before the tsunami. And then in 2010, we started to see signs popping up that a development was coming. And that's when we found out that the property was sold, and that a large developer was coming in to build a a vill or a bunch of villas right in front of us. And we started getting really nervous at that point. In 2000, we had 6 years of a really peaceful life. And then after 2010, we saw that they were getting ready to put in what we considered non-compliant units in front of us.
I don't know how it goes in the States, but like in
Hmm.
Ireland, it's called planning permission. So how it
Yeah,
works is you'll apply to the local authority, which is I think in the States you might say municipality. If it gets approved or whatever, or it's in the process, you have to literally put a sign outside the area with what is going to happen, for
yeah.
people to read, and people can put objections in. Was there anything like that happen in Thailand?
No, no, we were not made aware of that process. And in fact, according to the lower court's ruling and the Supreme Administrative Court's ruling, the developer had actually started developing before he got his permits. And that actually triggered legal action in the local police, and also in the court system. So it was the only way we found out about it was by walking around the shopping malls and seeing that this property was starting to be sold. And we collected the information from the brochures to find out what they were building. That was the only way that we were aware of it.
And these are high-end units. I mean, they look
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah, they're gorgeous. I mean, they're well done, teak, European fittings, windows, air conditioning, high ceilings, stunning views, and each unit is about 1.2 million USD starting.
Wow. So the big question is, okay, so how do you know the approximate size of these structures?
Yeah, the according to the expert witnesses from the administrative court and the lower court, the front row is 12 meters high, so twice what's allowed. Also, they fill in less than 30% of the property, so they're overbuilt. Their footprint is too big. And the back row is 16 meters high, and that's less than 30% also. So they're large buildings. We went from seeing the beautiful ocean and getting the sea breeze to looking in a second floor window at a bathroom and a bedroom.
God. I mean, what was your feeling initially when you saw these plans and you knew when this thing started going up brick by brick in front of your
Yeah,
home?
disbelief. Just disbelief. We couldn't imagine that um, that this oversight, what we considered an oversight, was happening. It took us about a year to realize that we actually are getting into a fight.
Okay. Who are these developers then? Who are these players? Who are these people that bought this land that are developing it?
Mm. The developer is a local person or a locally regional person, that had a collection of local developers. They bought up the property. The property was 5 rai, which I believe is in the neighborhood of 2 acres, and I'm not sure how that fits in hectares. Yeah. He had collected a group of professionals that do really good work, and they started funding the development, and the development was also funded by a European. The European came in with a lot of money and partnered with the Thai partner. And so the Thai partner was the one that was getting things done, while the European person was the one that funded the actual construction.
So how was were these structures? What was what was the trick or
Uh,
how did this happen?
yeah, the when we went to the municipality, they told us it was in zone one, and that was very comforting. But what happened when we saw the permits that were actually issued is that they had used a marker that is about 50 kilometers away from here, an ocean marker that's about 50 kilometers away from here. And they use that marker to put the high tide actually 50 meters out to sea. So even though the sea would be coming 60 meters away from our house, the way that the surveyors surveyed it based on that marker is it put the marker 50 meters out, or the high tide 50 meters out, thereby making that strip of land that I was telling you zone two. Um, since it as zone two, then the front row would be legal, because in zone two, you can build 12 meters high and have 30% garden area. The back row would still be a problem, because it's 16 meters high and it's not even 30 meters of free space in it. So the back row is problematic no matter what zone it's in. But the way that they did it was they moved that high tide 50 meters out into the ocean. And they did it legally. They did it legally. The the court supported that marker in the permit. But what is very interesting, and this is a what I have to give a lot of credit to the court about, is they said that the way they had processed the permit was correct, but what trumps the survey and the high tide line is the actual site inspection. So when you go on site and you see that the high tide is right in front of you, that becomes more important than the marker. So that's where the conflict is.
Okay, just I'll go back a little bit. So
Sure.
you said earlier that you knew after about a year you were going to get into a battle. Can you describe
Mm.
the battle that you got into and the process, the steps you went through?
Yeah. 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 Well, the first thing we did, we came at this from a Western point of view, which was a bit of a mistake. Yeah. We confronted the developer right away. We took the paperwork and we sat down with him in his office and said, "Are you doing this?" And he said, "Yes, we're doing this." And we got into a fight, not a fist fight, but into a verbal altercation. And he basically dug his heels in the ground and said, "I'm doing this." Um, then what we did is we took advice from some of our local friends, and this is what is really important is that Thai people will not recognize an issue unless it's been written and stamped. So if you just talk, it's just talk. But if you go to the official steps, then you can actually mount a offense. So the first step that we did is we went to the police department, the local police department, and we filed not a complaint, but we filed a statement. And so the police accepted the statement, and that became the foundation for every next step that we took. So we got in writing, it was stamped by the police, and then we went to the Phuket governor, we went to the police department, and we went to the local municipality and another organization called the Damrung Tam, which in English translates to ombudsman. It's the government organization that tries to get in between fighting parties and compromise to try to find a solution. So we went to all of them and wrote them a letter saying that we're objecting to this, and we told them why, which is we believe that they're building out of the zone, and the Tesaban at that point acknowledged it, however, said that the permit was just issued. The Ombudsman, which is a powerful organization, and I would highly suggest that anybody that's going to get into a fight here understands how to work with them. The Ombudsman went to Phuket's Public Works Department and had an engineering team come down and survey what was happening. And that's where they declared that the property was actually in Zone 1, and that became the foundation for every further action we took legally, because the ombudsman sent a letter to the Phuket uh, Public Works Department. They came down, surveyed it, said it's Zone 1, and then we took that letter and we started to process our legal battles.
And then all
We
the
made a
while you
mistake.
were processing it was construction continuing.
Yeah, yeah, night and day, 7 o'clock in the morning until about 11 at night, 7 days a week. It was enraging because we knew it was wrong, or we thought we knew it was wrong. As it ends up, according to the court, it is wrong, but it was very frustrating. Yeah.
Do you think because they knew it was wrong, they were trying to get it up as fast as possible?
I maybe, but I think that the revenue that they could generate was stunning. Yeah, because in within 2 acres, you're putting up 20 units at 1.2 to 1.5 million US dollars a unit. That's a lot of money. So I think the quicker they got it done, the quicker they handed over the keys and they got the exchange. One of the things about Thailand is that they don't use mortgages, especially for foreigners. So what would happen is once they sold it, they would get a large chunk of cash. So I think that the motivation was financial. I have no proof of that, but that's my feeling.
So then back to the legal battle then. What was,
Mm.
you mentioned in a phone call to me that it went to two courts and you won both cases.
Well, the first thing that we did is again the Western styles. We took our complaint to the civil court in Phuket, and we complained that they blocked our view and we were losing value on our house. That court case took about a year and a half, and I had to actually pay a retainer or an escrow in order to pursue this legal battle because I was suing them for damages. Um, and then when push came to shove and it was time for the verdict, the judges basically said they've got a permit, they're allowed to build. The Tesaban or the municipality is a legal entity. They issued a permit. Therefore, there's nothing we can do. We cannot judge that that permit is okay or not. So we lost that court case and we lost that escrow. Um, After we lost that court case, um, we found out about something called the administrative court, which was news to me. An administrative court in Thailand is one where you can fight a government agency, and the court will take an investigatory role. In other words, they start investigating the case itself on your behalf to find out if there's malfeasance by the government agency, and that is the route to go. And that was quite incredible because we're about a year and a half into this now. We had lost our original case in the civil court. Then we filed in the administrative court. And this is what was quite impressive on the Thai judicial system. Number one, we did not need a lawyer to write that complaint. I wrote the complaint, and it was translated into Thai. The administrative court accepted the case, but kind of changed the defendants because they very kindly said you got the wrong defendants. I thought the defendants was the environmental committee that issued the license, the environmental license, and the court said no, no, that's not who you need to sue. You need to sue the municipality and you need to sue the people surrounding that decision. So they went ahead and changed it themselves. Very impressed. In the West, we could not do that. We'd have to have a lawyer write the case and file the case, etc. In Thailand, they know that there's an issue between the haves and the have-not, and they leave that system open to people. So even if you write a complaint on a sheet of paper, it doesn't have to file or follow any norms. You can submit it, and the court will find out if there's merit, and if there's merit, it accepts the case. So we filed the case, and about a month and a half, 2 months later, we got a note saying, "Good job, but you got the defendants wrong." So we correct that, and then they went into the case.
And then what was the outcome?
Uh, it was about 6 years of going back and forth. You have 3 rounds of them. We filed the complaint, then they replied to the complaint. And that went back and forth 3 times. And then at the end of that complaint, the lower court, the lower administrative court, agreed with us that they were permitted correctly by using the marker, but by sight and by site inspection, the high tide mark was indeed closer than what was permitted. And so the court acted or made a decision on our behalf, and the lower court required that the TESA bond correct the actual site. So that leaves a little bit of discretion to the municipality, but this is not a paper remedy. This is a physical remedy because the buildings are too close to the ocean.
And during those 6 years, were you also sued?
Oh, yeah, multiple times. Yeah. When after our civil court case, we got um, oh, we got audited by the revenue department, both myself and my company. I was investigated by the labor department. I was investigated by the immigration department. They actually came to my house, 8 guys, and they demanded to see my credentials. We were edited by the or audited by the DBD, the Department of Commerce, to make sure that we indeed had a proper company. That actually ended up in one meeting in Phuket, and then I was called to Bangkok, where I met with the central headquarters in Bangkok to clear the company structures that we had set up. Um, and I was also investigated heavily by the DSI, roughly 2 weeks of face-to-face interrogation,
And I'll
where
just add
there
in
were,
there, they're the equivalent of the FBI in America.
yeah, so yeah, that's right. They're equivalent to the FBI or MI5, I believe. So this was a big deal, and what had happened was because of the level of contact that the developer had with government officials, and a deputy minister filed a complaint claiming that I was an organized crime figure in Phuket. And so I was investigated by the entire, by the region head of the DSI. Um, I, and on a quick side note on that one, the people that supported me were government officials. Government officials that actually came by my side and sat down because they had known me since I moved there, and basically stood up for me. And the DSI, after that entire um, uh, um, interview process, I was cleared and I got the gold stamp. Every single one of those audits, I was cleared. Every one.
Yeah, I mean, so they basically went looking for something
Yeah,
to find, he's
yeah,
this guy's, there's a mistake here, so they could, well, it would probably throw a spanner in the works for your case, obviously, but they didn't
yeah.
find anything. Everything was
That's right.
perfect. Your documents were in perfect order.
Yeah, that's right. That's the key, right? If any one of those would have triggered a non-compliant event, I would have been kicked out of the country. I would have been criminally charged and kicked out of the country.
But Eric, were you not worried? I mean, that you're dealing with the system here, and it's like it's not a Western country where were you not worried at any point they could just say, we're going to frame this guy, we're going to pin something on him, we're going to frame him, we're going to just get rid of this. Something can happen, and you're all of a sudden you've got a charge coming straight for you.
Well, I did have two charges of defamation, which is a tool that's used to keep people quiet. Yeah. And both those charges, the cases were dismissed, but that was after me losing my passport to the officials, to the government officials. I wasn't allowed to travel, and I had a red stamp put in my passport that I was being adjudicated. But in all fairness to them, they don't know anything. And if someone makes a valid complaint, they are required by law to investigate it. So what had happened was every single one of those agencies received a letter saying, we're suspicious of this person. And so the agency is required by law to follow up and see if this person is doing things against the law. The reason we didn't fear losing our status was because we did everything according to the law. We had lawyers, accountants, accounts were set up properly, banks were set up properly. We never paid one penny in extra fees to any government official. Everything we did right. And because of that, it would have been very hard for them to set us up. If we did things wrong, it's easy to set up because you can find it, right? When they were investigating it, they looked at everything. They looked at our articles of association, they looked at the accounting, they looked at everything. And if we did something wrong, they would have found it and I would have been gone. So by virtue of the fact that we did this the right way is the reason that we have the confidence to stay here.
And when these departments learned of your story or your predicament or what's going on in Phuket, how
Yeah.
did they feel then?
That's when there was a turning point, right? Because at this point we were basically accusing people of things, and when they actually started hearing our story and it was being backed up by our accountants, the government officials all backed off. And in fact, some of them became very close friends of mine and still are today because they realized that this was a setup. And they actually moved to help me um, overcome the issues. In one of the audits, I was being audited and held in suspicion of violation of their code, and so was my company. And when I was meeting with the auditor, my accountant told them the story of what was going on, and I was cleared that afternoon. And then I was introduced to the person who was going to be doing the audit for my company. The audit from my company never came because they had realized that this was a sham, that this was a setup. Yeah. And so this is one of the reasons that gives me a lot of confidence in Thailand. The thing for the viewers and for people to understand about Thailand is if it's in writing and it's stamped and you do it the right way, you're okay. But if you talk, you're going to get in a lot of trouble.
How do you mean talk?
A lot of people will go to the bars or go to their friends and they'll complain about how these guys did something wrong to me or those guys did something wrong to me or this company did a bad thing for me. You got to be careful. Yeah. If you say things like that, they have a case against you and you're finished, right? What you got to do is you got to play it like they do, right? You got to be quiet, you got to document everything, and you got to smile. And then one day, the excavators are going to come down and knock it down, and it's going to be done very quietly. Whereas if I would have gone into the middle of the street and yelled about what was going on, I would have been found guilty of defamation and acting against the way that Thailand is, and they would have thrown me out of the country.
So it's kind of like it's kind of like a cultural thing. I mean, I know in the West, we'd be straight over to that building site, waving your finger at the project manager, like.
And we would have gone to the newspapers, and we would have been on that we would have been on television. We would have done everything we can to put public pressure on the Thais. But Thais don't like that kind of pressure. They understand things are wrong, but what they need to do is they need to see it. They need to be able, because a lot of these complaints are interagency also. So if we make a complaint against the land department is going to need to check with the environmental department with the land department. So a lot of these things have a huge impact. And when you start putting pressure on a Thai person, you give them an opportunity to lose face. And if they lose face, that's it. Because that's and if you're a foreigner and you're making them lose face, that's it. You lost all credibility. They're not going to help you. But if you do things the right way, one step at a time with writing, and you let everybody check with the other agencies that they need to check with, you'll find that they're actually remarkably fair. That the judgments that we got on our behalf are remarkable. They're in our favor and they're very logical. And the end product is going to be that about $30 million worth of development is going to be erased because of the mistakes that were made in the development and the permitting of these buildings.
Well, before we get on to that, because I do have
Sure,
questions on that.
sure.
Uh, but as you were saying there, like, yeah, I agree with you of the process in Thailand, but I imagine that's a long, lengthy process compared to the West.
It is. You have to have patience. Yeah. One of the things that helped me a lot was one of the authors of a document that was submitted to the United Nations about the Thai judicial system is that the state does not demand justice for the state. The state's judicial system is looking for justice between two parties. There's a big difference there. In the West, the state is offended by a violation and they're going to demand justice for the state. Where in Thailand, they'll come to you and say, yeah, 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 we know you that there's a mistake been made, but let's make both parties happy. And if both parties are happy, they've done their job and they walk away. So they won't impose penalties that are state sponsored. They'll negotiate, they'll compromise, and they'll walk away. And that was it was that was a very important document to understand because as we move forward, you can't push for maximum enforcement. You have to try to find a middle ground if there is a middle ground.
Did that happen to you, Eric? Did the developer come and say to you, well, look, I mean, your property is right across the road from ours. If you want, we could buy your property. We could also develop that as well. We'll give you X amount of
The,
money.
that was we wrote as we were going through the process and documenting this. We went to the Senate, right? And we sent a letter to the environmental committee to the Senate, and the Senate had a Senate committee and sent down five senators to look at at the project. After that, the senators said, "Okay, we need to find a compromise." So that day, a chief of police called me and invited me into his office and basically said, "We need to find a compromise here." And the compromise that we were looking for was a house that's the same size as ours, property the same property size, and with the same characteristics of the street that I had defined to you, quiet road, dead end, that kind of stuff. And we said we would go any place in Phuket. You just hand us the keys and we'll give you our keys. In other words, we'll give you our property. You give us another piece of property that's equal to what our property is. We didn't want to make any money. We said you got to pay to move our stuff there, and that's it. The police, the chief of police said, "Yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that." And a week later, they came up with a magnificent house. Not mag. I mean, it came up with an option for us. That would have been a magnificent option. And we said, yeah, let's do this. And they called the developer, and the developer denied the request. So the developer at that point had dug his heels in, and it was going to fight this tooth and nail to the end. The correspondingly, the homeowners, who I have a lot of sympathy for, because they came in good faith, bought with a permit, and paid cash and only to find out that the permits are problematic. They came to me and offered me a settlement also. But the settlement was rejected by one individual company in the homeowners. And because of that one rejection, the compromise evaporated. So there were two serious compromises in the works. Both of them were rejected.
Wow.
Not on my side.
And the company that rejected, are they still operating in this resort? These units?
No, no. They sold the units and it's now being run by a juristic organization. So everybody that has property over there, they own it outright themselves, or the company owns it, and the developer is no longer part of it.
I mean, yeah, like you said, you have to feel for them as well because they went
Yeah,
in good faith
yeah,
to buy
yeah,
property and
yeah,
they're in big trouble as
yeah,
well.
yeah,
And they're in
yeah.
real trouble.
Yeah, yeah, they're going to be losing a lot of money. I don't know how many people have lost their retirement. I don't know, but the pain that they're going through for sure. I mean, we currently have an action in the court right now where 16 of the homeowners are kind of saying, "Wow, we didn't know this was happening." We don't know if that's entirely true, but they say that they didn't know what was happening, and they're fighting now to try to keep their value, but they're not
So,
going
what stage are we at in the process? Because I know in a couple of days' time you're going to court again. So, what stage are
to.
we at now?
The we won in the lower court, and then the lower court sends it or doesn't send it up, but it was appealed, and it was appealed by the developer who became an addition to the original complaint. So we had named the municipality as a defendant. The developer had joined that legally as so they became a co-defendant. So the municipality did not appeal, but the developer appealed. And that took about 6 or 7 years to hear the appeal. And during that process in Bangkok, they were gathering more evidence because they're allowed to investigate the cases. They don't wait for lawyers. They can send out their own experts and things like that. So they verified the experts' testimonies in from the lower court, and they sided on our side. They supported the lower court completely. Yeah, and they actually said that the local mayor was guilty of not doing their job, which in Thailand is a really bad thing because that ends up with a criminal charge. That's a criminal charge. And so the Supreme Administrative Court said that the mayor was guilty of that and instructed the mayor and the municipality to correct the buildings.
So is
And
the mayor
now,
currently under, is he facing this charge?
yeah, the mayor right now, according to local news and from the deputy governor of Phuket, who was the one that gave us the information, said that the mayor is currently under not just criminal indictment, but the court has accepted the criminal case. In Thailand, you can file a case, but if the court decides not to take it, then it's not a case. The National Anti-Corruption Committee had charged the mayor with criminal negligence, and it was given to the court, and the court has accepted the case, which means there's going to be a day in court, which means the likelihood of an unfavorable um, solution for him is not good. Yeah. So yeah, the corruption committees have taken action. Yeah.
So when you mentioned the likelihood of these properties being corrected, what do you mean by corrected? I mean, if they're already built, are they going to knock them down, or what does corrected mean?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I'll use an example. I'll just use this as an example, okay? If one of the units was indeed 50 meters away, you wouldn't want to touch it, but because the ocean was is so close, um, it does need to be corrected. So what they'd have to do is they'd have to shave off the top of the building. They'd have to lose half of the building, so it would only stand 6 meters high. But the really hard part here is that if you're looking at the footprint, yeah, let's say the footprint is here, they're only able to occupy 25% of that. And since they already occupy a lot more than that, what's going to happen is they have to destroy that entire footprint, right? So the remedy is physical. It is not paper.
And do you foresee that happening? I mean,
Yeah.
you think it will? Is it possible that the ruling will go in favor of a correction, and then the correction will be delayed, and it could be years down the line if it ever
Yeah,
happens?
for sure. Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's going to be further actions that we have to take, right? Um, but in Thailand, administrative courts are being much more active, and there are a lot of corrective actions happening right now. If this was 20 years ago, I would say no, no. But because Thailand is really trying to, and it really is, it's stepping up its game, I believe it will work. I'll give you an example. You had asked where we are currently in this legal process, right? So we won the Supreme Administrative Court. Then one company said, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know this was happening. We need to adjudicate my issues." And that's allowed by law if two things happen. Number one, you prove that you didn't know. Number two, if you can bring material evidence that shows that something wasn't heard, right? And so they've been given a brief period of time to see if that's indeed the truth. And that's what our next hearing is going to be, right? And what the court did is they adjoined the entire complex to make them aware that they're in trouble or that they've got a judgment against them, but also give them an opportunity to bring material evidence to the case in case there was an administrative issue or a material issue in the prior verdicts. Prior to this new trigger of the new cases, the municipality had already set up a schedule to demolish the buildings within 3 years because the developer will not demolish the buildings. So it's incumbent on the township to demolish the buildings. And so they were preparing budgets in order to demolish the entire thing.
say for example, if I'm one of these homeowners now, and I'm
Yeah.
looking at this,
Oh,
I'm like, oh God, this is.
yeah.
Am I able to sell my property? Could I like get rid of it without having all of this knowledge being known and just sell it for 1.2 is probably worth nearly 2 million now.
Yeah. Yeah. That's there was one person that owned three of the units, and they were the $1.5 million units. Yeah. That person was aware of the lower court ruling on our behalf and went ahead and sold those units to unsuspecting people. And this was a travesty. When we were in the enforcement hearing after the Supreme Administrative Court, one of the people that had bought that unit after the lower court ruling was saying you can't do this, and we're like, well, unfortunately, the legality or the illegality of this building follows the building, not your good faith effort to buy. And the court has in fact backed that up. So what happened was the gentleman, it was a Chinese gentleman that had bought one or two of those units, saying that he looked at the permit, it was clean and good. He talked to a lawyer. The lawyer said this is okay. And so he went ahead and made a purchase, even though the lower court had ruled against the entire complex. Yeah. So this is one thing that I would really advise people that are moving into Thailand is that when you do this, you really need to look at the entire situation in a holistic way and not trust a single source of expertise or subject matter expertise. Yeah. Because if you're looking at a single point of failure, it's going to fail. So the Chinese gentleman, what if I were in his position, what I would have done is I would have had it surveyed myself, and then I would have been able to identify whether this was a piece of property that was I was willing to take. Surveys aren't expensive. I had my house surveyed to make sure it was in the right zone. Yeah. But unfortunately, this guy took the word of an attorney and saw the permit, and it was all legit. The permit says this number, this blah blah. It was all legit, but they didn't know about the lower court. Therefore, the gentleman that sold it to him was able to exit and exited healthily, and the individual that inherited the building unfortunately inherited the legal issues surrounding that building.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. Multiple sources.
Yeah.
I interviewed a guy a couple of weeks ago who
Mm,
was a real estate agent in Phuket.
mm,
And he was stressing due diligence, and hire a good lawyer. But I never thought about the multiple sources until I'm hearing your story. I'm like, yeah,
mm,
if I was ever doing that, multiple sources, absolutely.
mm.
I'd never
Yeah.
trust one. Never just trust a lawyer. Go somewhere else as well and like you say, get it
If you're
surveyed.
around, if you're around water or a floodplain, then you need to check the surveys. You need to go to the land department. You need to, and you know, and what's really cool is the Thai government is willing to do this with you. So if you walked into the land department and said, "I'm thinking about buying this," they'll help you, right? What happens though is that we don't speak Thai well when we move here, right? And so we're a little bit shy to go to a government office where they all speak Thai and we don't know what's going on. So further advice would be bring an official interpreter and go to a government, go to the governor's office or go to the land department or wherever and say, I'm thinking about doing this. What do you think? And then you get it from them. And then the other thing is have them put it in writing because when they put their approvals in writing and stamped, their face is on that. If you get a verbal okay, no, no, that's not okay. It needs to be in writing. And then what you do is you create something that I would call an audit file. And an audit file is a file that when you're being audited by whoever, you just give them your audited file with all your documents and you say, there you go. Figure it out yourself, yeah?
And your land, because I know that this question is going to come up in the comment section about foreigners
Sure,
owning land and stuff like that. So
sure,
the
sure.
the land, your land that your house sits on is under your company's name. Is that right?
Yeah,
Okay.
yep, yep. It's under my company's name, and it was an extension of my company in the United States. Yeah.
Okay.
It has been put to sleep. It was doing revenue, but it has been put to sleep. And I did not use the what do you call it, nominees. My shareholders are people that I know very, very well. So this is, and this is one of the reasons why the DSI investigated me for so long because they thought I was running a nominee scheme. So they checked all my shareholders, they checked all everything. That's why I'm still here. Yeah. If I had done the nominee thing, no, I would have. That would have been a problem.
And you mentioned when we had a conversation there a couple of days ago, just a part that kind of touched me was you mentioned that your passports were held by the authorities
Mm,
while you're being investigated, and at the
right.
time your wife sadly got cancer, and
Yeah.
she was prevented. You
Yeah.
both of you were prevented from leaving the country to seek further cancer treatment, and your wife
That's right.
passed away. I mean, how
Yeah.
did
There
that must
was
have been the most emotional roller coaster ever?
well, it was compounded by a couple things, right? So my first defamation suit was delivered to me while my wife was in the beginning stages of her cancer. And the court had not accepted the defamation case yet. And then once the court date came up, I was instructed to go to the court with our passports, and I was put into a holding cell until my case came up, and I was able to post bail, and I was in jail, unfortunately, and my wife is sick at home. And then once I posted bail, they insisted on my passport, and I resisted. I said, "This isn't your property. You don't have no right to this." But in all actuality, they do, because if you're under a criminal charge and they're letting you go, they have to have some assurity that you're going to show back up. So the best way to do it is to take the passport. So unfortunately, the, the cases go slowly. Just one second. The cases go very slowly here, and so as the case was drawing on, my wife was getting sicker, and the construction was happening 18, 20 hours a day, and the lights were blaring and the noise and all that other stuff. And she passed, um, I think about a year after they had completed the construction, and she passed um, uh, uh, about a year after we won the case. But because they had the passports, we were not able to go to Western medical facilities to fight cancer in a way that may be a little bit better. But more importantly, is that she's Asian, and it would have been marvelous for her to go home to her family. Yeah, she couldn't, and that is a that's a human right that should not be denied. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I'd feel very bitter about that, man. I
Oh,
don't
I'm
know.
very
Yeah,
bitter. I'm really bitter.
I
Yeah.
don't blame you.
Yeah.
I'd be the same.
Mm. Yeah.
Um, so I mean, what do I have? Questions I have here.
Sure.
Okay. I mean, Eric, you come across to me as someone who's, you're very resilient. A lot of people in your position would have just been like, right, that's it. I'm going to sell this property. I'm out of here. People probably leave Thailand. Some people would start
Mm.
YouTube channels and complain about Thailand. And but
Yeah.
you've dug your
Yeah.
heels in. You got in for a long fight.
Mm.
And you handled the stress. I mean, going up
Mm.
to Bangkok and being interviewed by the DSI, being
Yeah.
audited. I mean, you come across that's your personality. You've a strong will.
Yeah. When I commit, I commit. But there's also something else, right? Because I was in high tech. Yeah. I came to Thailand and I started talking to the tech guys, and I met an award-winning engineer a Thai guy, an award-winning engineer from Microsoft. He was considered one of the best programmers in Asia, and that award was given to him by Microsoft. And I was looking for a project, and when we came to Thailand, people would buy a bus ticket by going from their house to the bus station and buy the ticket, and then go home and then go back to the bus station the day of travel to make sure that they had their ticket because they couldn't uh, you couldn't buy an advance ticket. So what him and I did was we co-founded a company that allows you to go online, reserve your ticket, and then pay using your bank account or 7-Eleven or whatever, so you can reserve a ticket the same way you could do it with an airline. So we were in that process of growing that company. And right now, we're the largest in Southeast Asia for this. Yeah. If I would have been, if I would have abandoned that because of this situation, I would have lost that opportunity to be part of this. Yeah. So there, there's no way I could go.
So, when one, it's kind of the yin and the yang. You had one bad situation on one side,
Yeah,
but you were growing, you had a positive thing that was motivating you on the other side.
that's right.
What's the name of the company so you can give it a plug?
Thank you. It's busx.com, busx.com, and
I,
anybody's welcome to try.
I think that's a great idea because, I mean, like you said, I've always had problems with going directly to the bus company and getting the
Yeah,
ticket, and
yeah,
it's a good solution. Good,
yeah,
solves the problem.
yeah.
Um, But like, just living under the shadow of this unresolved case for years and not knowing the outcome. I mean, was that stressful for you?
Very, very. That combined with growing a company, combined with the ill health of my late wife, and yeah, there was a time when quite honestly I had a panic attack, and I was taken to the hospital with blood pressure at 193 over 140 or some nonsense like that. They thought I was going into a cardiac event. Um, I calmed down, and then they said, "Look, you're under a lot of stress. You got to really take care of yourself." And it made me change my lifestyle. Yeah, so I exercised more, ate better, et cetera, et cetera. But this kind of thing definitely takes a physical toll on yourself.
I know I asked you this question already about,
Hmm.
in case someone framed you or pinned something on you, but were you ever genuinely scared that you could just be assassinated? It's like some guy would just say, this guy's causing us major problems. Let's get a guy with a gun on a motorbike. Let's just take him out. Let's just end it.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. Terrified. Yeah. My head was on a bobble for years. Yeah. Um, During this process that we were going through, we had about 11 people come to our house that were armed. And we were told that the project is going to continue regardless of any efforts that we make. That was the message. They didn't threaten us. They just basically came in force, armed, telling us that this is going to happen. Yeah. I um I went to the police department, filed a report. As I told you, you file the report. You don't actually make a complaint, but you file the report so it's on record that this actually happened. I did that with my neighbor because my neighbor saw the whole thing also. So I had to tie witness myself, filed the report, and then I called my embassy, and my embassy said we do not get involved in domestic affairs. So good luck with that. And here's a list of attorneys. My late wife's embassy, it was Chinese, and she called the Chinese embassy, and within 2 hours we had a full colonel at our house asking for the details of what happened, and then assured us that he was going to talk to the individual that he knows was responsible to make sure that we're safe. And so after that happened, it's a bit of an insurance policy for us because if I were to get into an accident or something would happen to me, all the internal infrastructure, the police department, the municipality, everybody knows we've got a problem with these guys, and they were going to be the first one brought to, under scrutiny if something happened to me. So after that event, I was far more comfortable. In fact, we kind of joked that maybe the developer would want to hire an insurance policy or get an insurance policy for me to make sure I don't get hurt. Yeah, because everybody would have been looking at this person. Yeah?
Is land encroachments? Is it quite common on the island of Phuket?
Mm. It was, and it's less and less. And that's a really good point because one of the things that happened, according to the court documents, is that the development had encroached into the ocean by as much as 7 meters in some parts, right? So the corresponding judicial events that will happen next quite likely could be criminal because you cannot occupy public land, right? And since the court has already adjudicated that they have occupied public land, that's another issue that's going to be coming to um, that has to be dealt with. But there's a lot less encroachment happening now. Municipalities are actually being held responsible for any encroachment that's happening, even if it's minute right now. So it's gotten a lot better. But if anybody's looking to buy in a beautiful forested property or next to a lake or next to another place, it is highly advisable. They get a couple things. The first one is make sure you're not that property is not part of a state forest because before a lot of state forests were carved up and were given proper title deeds, yeah, only to find out later that those title deeds were issued illegally. One of the main uh, uh, officials in the land department actually committed suicide a couple years ago because he had issued so many illegal deeds. And then those deeds are going to be wiped out. Those deeds will be revoked, and you're going to have no property. Um, and then so I would highly suggest if it's in a green area, you check to make sure. Second thing is there's four levels of title deeds. Um, the first one is like farmland. The second one is farmland plus a commercial event, and the third one is you're going to a real title deed, and then the final one is the title deed. And a title deed is one where the satellite actually puts the markers down around your house, and this is arguably your property, right? Um, a lot of companies are on the third or the second title, and those second and third titles can be changed. They can be disputed by a family or a company or something like that. And you may lose that. The likelihood is low, but you may lose that yet. So if someone says they have, when you're going through your process, and someone says we're at title deed three, but we're transferring to title deed four in a couple months, don't that's not a good idea because you don't know the circumstances of what the title deed is all the way up through the ranks. So uh, it's a good idea to make sure that that you have the fourth title deed and make sure that it's in a location that has been properly vetted, that it's not in national forest.
I mean, you've had this, it's a whirlwind experience,
Mm,
extremely stressful, and
mm,
I don't know if I could go through what you went through. I mean,
yeah, yeah,
over a 15-year battle, uh, guys showing up armed at your house and, taking on the system. Would you do it all again if you had the chance?
oh, for sure. I mean, the if you take a look at the style that I have here, it far exceeds anything that I would have in what I would consider a lot of countries. And I've traveled around the world, right? The weather is great here. The people, when you learn the culture, are very good. They're almost like family. They'll be very supportive, very patient. The food is extraordinary. When I get finished here, I'm going to be going to the beach and having a couple of ice cold beers, and I do that every day. So the
Jealous.
style, it's worth it. Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so yeah. I mean, I can feel it from you. So I've interviewed a lot of people, and
Mm,
within 2 minutes of meeting people, I can usually tell if they adapt
mm,
well to Thailand and Thai
yeah,
culture. Within
yeah,
2 minutes of meeting you today, actually, like you seem very calm. You're in control of your emotions, and I just thought, like,
mm,
okay, if anyone was going to go through the process and come out the other end after talking to you, I believe you've put confidence in me that you can, and you've mentioned that you've have friends and
yeah,
good network of Thai people as well. I can
yeah,
see that being true as well because
yeah,
you come across that way. So I suppose it's a good
yeah,
lesson for people as well because moving from west to east. We can't you have to change to a certain
yeah,
extent. I always picture like some guy walking down the street in New York, just hey, I'm walking
yeah,
here. Like that's the total
yeah,
opposite of
yeah.
what you do in Bangkok.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And once you make those adjustments, it's magic, right? I mean, you take a look at the people. I mean, the ladies are gorgeous here, and we hear stories about people that have been treated badly by women and what have you. But there's quite a few people that have great wives, and I know them, that have had wives for 20 or 30 years, that they've gone through tremendous stress together as a couple, and then were resilient, had kids, and their kids become political leaders or leaders of companies. I mean, it's a good place to be, but you got to play by the rules, and you got to be, like you said, you can't be like a New York in your face kind of thing. You have to look, smile, write it down, get it stamped, put it in your folder, and use it later, and you'll win. Then it's a good thing.
Eric, I'd like to follow the story down the line because I know we're going to get people that are going to be interested in what the outcome is. Are these properties going to be, corrected? What's going to happen?
Mm,
And I mean, this
mm,
story could develop over the next year, could be 2 years, 3 years. But
sure.
in the meantime, if you could update me and maybe we could do another interview down the line, or else I could also post maybe on the community post, just update people on what the process is so
I,
we can actually have a conclusion to the story.
Be more than happy to help. I mean, that's the reason I came to you, was because I really think that the experience needs to be communicated, because there's a real counterculture here with foreigners that have bad attitudes. Yeah. And they get these attitudes by going to the bars at night, and everybody acts as if they know the laws and know the court systems, and they act like these mini little knowledge centers when they're really not. Yeah. And unfortunately, that those words kind of displaced throughout the rest of the expat community. And I like the way that you and I interact, because I think that the tack that I want to take as we get into this is that this is a good place, but you gotta work it right. So I'm more than interested to follow this up. And in fact, when we get finished with the hearing that's coming up, we have a good idea of what's going to happen, and I'll be more than happy to let you know what's going on. And we should follow
Yeah, absolutely. Let's follow it up. Let's
it.
stay in contact. And I feel like flying all the way over to Phuket to have a beer with you after hearing this story.
Yeah,
Next time I'm in Phuket, let's have a beer.
yeah, that'd be awesome. Yeah, yeah. I know all the good places, so
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely
have to.
I'm up for it. I'm up for it. In a couple of months.
Yeah,
I'll be there in a couple of months.
yeah. Look me up. I'll be happy to. I'll get you set up in a good hotel, and we'll go have some food and some beer. That'd be great.
Cool. Eric,
All
man,
right.
take it easy. Look, it's been a
Mm.
pleasure.
Yeah, likewise.